Meeting, and I do want to welcome our guests here today. We have Ian and Paul from NEMA that are joining Ben today. Lovely to meet both of you yesterday, and thank you for being with us today, and also welcome to Corin in the back. So without further ado, we're going to dig into our agenda, councillors. Any apologies? Who sits next to you? No, Meredith? Cool. So at this stage, no apologies noted. Okay, declarations of interest, none. Confirmation of our non-confidential minutes. So I take you to page 3, where you will see our minutes from our last meeting. Moved by Councillor Burdett, seconded by Councillor Foster. Any questions or queries in regards to this set of minutes? Councillor Foster, the floor is yours.
Yep, thank you. Just on regards to page 5 with the rain radar at Toko, I was just wondering if that had been installed as yet.
Just ask that question again so Nadine can find where you are at. Page 5.
Page 5, one of the bullet points halfway down. Yeah, just the rain radar that was supposed to be was going to be installed in Toko after the last extreme rain event. I was just wondering if that has already been installed.
Ben.
Yeah, kia ora. The correct reference should be a rain gauge. The radars are significant. Yeah. I'd like a rain radar up there. So my last conversation with Dr. Murray was that the consultation with NIWA was looking to confirm the site, and from where Murray had indicated that was going to be at the Mangahoney Bridge. Now, whether that's taken place or not, Murray's on leave, so I haven't been able to, but it is certainly within the work stream for that.
Thank you for that, Ben. Any more questions in regards to our minutes? If not, all in favour, contrary, carried. Thank you. I take you to the action sheet, which is on page 7 of 34. So Ben, this is just still ongoing. Thank you for that update. Any questions in regards to our action sheet or our governance plan, which is on the next page? No. So we will move to our first report. Corin and Ben, we will hand the floor to you. Give us a quick kōrero, and then we'll open the floor to any questions or queries from councillors. Thank you, Ben. And feel free to take your mask off when you're speaking, if you want to.
So the report we've provided here with the work we've been doing up until this point with the location for the Emergency Coordination Centre. As you'll see, look, I have referenced this in previous reports with the site, and particularly with the hazard modelling that leads us to that location. So you'll see the legal opinion has been attached there. I guess where we're at, we've looked at all the options available around that site. There is obviously a commercial building down in that vicinity, but the costs would be prohibitive in terms of proceeding with that, as Corin has detailed within the report there. So that's really lays out the rationale in terms of what we've pursued there. The legal opinion, which provides really the backstop for us to engage with that. And I guess really probably questions in terms of your comfort level in terms of what we've engaged with the next steps, which is obviously the community consultation component to then engage with the resource consent.
Thank you for that, Ben. I just realised that Councillor Robinson emailed me yesterday. He is an apology for today. So I'll move Councillor Robinson, seconded by Councillor Seymour. All in favour, contrary, carried. Sorry, Ben, I just realised that. Okay, people, this paper is open for questions. It's quite straightforward. You've given us all the information. Ben, Councillor Dowsing, thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to move the preferred option. That makes sense. Thanks.
Any Councillor Seymour?
Thank you. Thanks very much for the paper.
Microphone.
Thank you very much for the paper, and we had an indication that might be happening. I'm just querying, it looks to me like it's using half of the site, and we own the whole site, I presume. It's just that getting out of Potai Ave into Lytton Road or in is quite concluded and busy and active, and I wondered whether had it been considered putting it on the other half of the site, because getting out of Ruru Ave into the Battleman Road is much less congested And in an emergency, you will have people coming in and going out. And I'm sure you have considered it, but I'm just asking if that was thought about.
Yes,
Thank you,
I'll-
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
If I can, I'll just provide a Councillor Seymour. I've got Corin, the project manager here. Corin, would you like to talk to them?
Yep. Thank you, Corin.
Morning all. So I guess the consideration was minimum disruption to the recreational part of that park. So at the north end, there is the small playground and more vegetation, which we figured would be more used or more people would be using that area.
Can I just supplement you?
Yep.
Supplement you, Madam Chair, was the matter of traffic congestion at that Potai Lip Road corner considered within the locating it, because playground park could be always moved a little bit into under the tree, if that's the only thing you consider.
I hadn't taken that into consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Seymour. I had the same thought last night, but then I thought now with the traffic flowing through Potai, it's not a massive, now that road is open. I know what you're saying, turning left there, but then it's not a high, not lots of customers will be going there, but I had the same thought as you. Councillor Sheldrake, thank you.
Yeah, simple one. How many staff would be working there sort of day for day on a regular basis? Be stationed there, please.
So our permanent fixed team will still work here in Awaru. Really, the facility, as we'll be setting it up, is actually activated in the terms of it's stood up for a response there. And that's with our emergency service partners as well. So it would be multi-purpose, but primary purpose of being a CEDM, the CEDM ECC coordination centre. So not a fixed standing staff, but certainly for when we're exercising, when we've actually got other emergency events with other agencies, using it in that capacity.
Councillor Hughes and then Warsnop. Thank you.
Well, my question is just around the budget set aside. So obviously our initial plan, I think, was to repurpose the existing house. So I just wondered why having free existing land with an expectation to still use up the budget.
Yeah, there's certainly with those options, but really when it comes down to the sort of horizontal real estate we require for this, being in a residential area is just not fit for purpose in terms of what happens when this place activates. And really, it's a key part of what we've been through, the economics, and really the $1 million in terms of a build for Gisborne is probably, I've got Corin working on that quite hard to make sure we actually are going to achieve that.
Councillor Warsnop and then Faulkner.
Thank you. My question kind of touches a little bit on the fact that it probably won't be in use very much. Are we building it with a mind to being able to have it used for something else as well in order to potentially supplement, I don't know, council's income or to just to be multi-purpose? I mean, it's obviously going to sit empty otherwise for most of the year. So I just had one other question after that too.
But look, the purpose for this building, I mean, if you look at what we deal with, what we have as an option here today, if we had to activate today, it would take my team 3 hours to set this space up to actually be set up to run a response there. So the fit out and the options we're taking for why we have this, which to me is still very well justified. It comes down to the bits that we can actually run our response out of there. And we actually are activated at the moment with the resurgence episode. So we do have the team, particularly in the sense of being stood up within our current old work area. But really the ability when we've got to get our agency partners in. So we're running plenty activities for next week. I think you find it's the use particularly will be a lot more fit for purpose in terms of what we need in terms of the emergency services collective. And that's how we've really approached the purpose of that facility.
Yes.
Just through your worship, also, as Mr. Green pointed out, there'll be training drills run there quite regularly, but we also are space deprived in Awadua as well by way of meeting room spaces, so we would be utilising that space as well, yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor.
Oh, sorry,
okay,
just,
Yep, last question.
Just for my own clarification, so the legal opinion talks about the eastern lot, which I presume is the L2 DP 6807. The lot that is further east in the image, is that not ours? Is that on the other side, in the on page 14? No, sorry,
The other part of the block.
oh, sorry, I'm thinking western. So that's,
Yeah, we
Yeah,
own
yeah.
both.
okay, all right, cool, thank you.
Okay, councillor Faulkner.
Thank you. My question really is around, well, it's not a question, but it's well, first a question, the House of Breakthrough is a current evacuation centre, isn't it? Is that correct?
It forms as a welfare centre that,
Yes.
that activates, yeah.
Yeah, so to me, it makes absolute sense, and I'm not sure if you have a seconder yet for councillor Dowsing, but I'd be happy to second the paper based on option 1, because it just makes sense in an emergency to bring everything together, to be near the people that you're there to help. So, thank you.
Councillor Akwaha Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My apologies for lateness. When I read the summary in regards to this facilities location, with all due respect to the debates that happen in the community around this build, I think the comms is really important to be stating emphatically that this facility will enable that connection to hospital, to to frameworks of, as Councillor Faulkner just said, because that's often the kickback we get is that, why did you build in the tsunami zone, so to speak? So I just think, for me, I totally, support this and appreciate all the work that's going on because of our current world status even. So, but I just know that the communications into the public domain will need to be strengthened around the fact that this will promote, help, support, do better for respect to the needs of our CDM team, because as I said, we get a lot of kickback to the costings and ratepayer respect to. So I think that will be an important moving forward. That's my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any more questions? Just quick, smart.
Sorry, I just remembered something that I thought when I read the paper, just with regards to the location, it's an awesome location, as Mira's just pointed out, and Sandra, but it is quite far removed and across a couple of bridges from Kaiti. Are we, in the event, and mostly the reason we've needed to relocate is because of tsunami, which presumably will impact the bridges, which means that potentially some of our community are cut off from the centre. Does that mean that we need some other hub of some kind, or at least a community contact point, where we've got a huge population on that side of the river that potentially won't have access to this? How does that fit in? Pardon?
Well, I think you've summed up really the challenge of what Gisborne presents. You've got a river that splits your town into 3. But really for the emergency services community, really, and the risk modelling particularly that presents in that paper, indicates why we're going to that area of town, which is to be able to coordinate and actually get a response. And Kaiti really is indicative really how we've approached the community preparedness for the whole region, is that, our community link structures, we identify those strategically and how we can support those with communications for the ability to actually respond to their needs, and is a focus of how we're going to run that through. So, I mean, fire, for example, and police do not have really a fixed place to go to. So they've got the challenge, for example, the fire station, to move the appliances out of there. And which way do they go? Do they come into the Mangapapa area, or what appliances go across the river? But it's not a pretty scenario, but that's equally part of what we're looking at for February next year. Undertaking a strategic recovery exercise that's going to be a 3-day workshop. Now I'll promulgate that to for yourselves to be part of that. That's going to be led by a national team as well. And looking at Gisborne in particular in terms of this type of scenario and actually take it through from the hazards to the so what in terms of scenario planning and outcomes.
Councillor Seymour.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one quick question through you to the Chief Executive. One presumes that it's intended that council continue to own this building and it's not owned by the holding company.
It's something that we have yet to canvass.
And what would be, have we thought about what the criteria around canvassing that?
Oh,
might be?
so in terms of the new building,
Yes,
council
yeah.
would, oh yeah, sorry, yes, council.
Well,
will continue
this,
to own it.
this new
Sorry,
building
yes, I
will
thought
be
you meant
continue to
Gisborne.
be owned by Gisborne District Council.
Correct.
That's what was clear. Thank you.
Okay, do I have a seconder for this report? Seconded by Councillor Faulkner. All in favour? Contrary? Carried. Thank you for that, councillors. Thank you, Ben. Okay, Ben, we're going to move on to your report. You can take it as read. And you can give us a quick update, stuff that you want to highlight to us, but thank you for a thorough report, just keeping us up to date where your stuff are going.
Thank you, Worship. Well, really, if you look at the tempo and activity for the report period, really is clearly a COVID focus. The National Resurgence Plan and equally a regional resurgence plan has been activated, given the events since the 17th of August. So we're well into that. Obviously, the pace, the scope of, the evolution of this scenario dealing with COVID, as we're all aware, is quite a tricky beast, and that's equally the challenge we have regionally for that, both in terms of prevention with the vaccination uptake and equally what we're looking at in terms of our resurgency plan. Obviously, a key activity for the region we're still conducting at this point, and until I've actually been instructed otherwise, is that the Rhythm and Vines scenario for us will be looking to do a planning activity next week with our emergency services partners in terms of looking at the what if sort of dealings with any cases out there. It's equally that is probably the bulk of what's there. I'll take any questions on COVID if anyone's got any. And but I've also appointed the regional leadership group, which the chair sort of oversees as well, can probably inform if any requirement there.
Thank you. Okay, any questions of Ben? Councillor Foster.
Just relating to R&V and the new traffic light system that's been implemented, but with no dates. Is that going to put a lot of pressure on you as far as in this organisation, as far as being set up to cope at a late notice if this is going to go ahead? Because obviously the new traffic light system, one would think that it's going to be pretty hard to get to 90% by the 1st of December, but hey, who knows? And for me, the system doesn't seem to be the best way of achieving the goal that they're trying to, because at the end of the day, because we are lagging behind so much, we're going to be the ones that are being frowned upon for not keeping up to speed, and hopefully that will change. But so what plans are in place to help with R&V?
I think it's relevant to the whole COVID discussion, so I'm going to be very loose today. So why don't we keep that for later? Thank you for that, Councillor Foster.
Okay.
Councillor Farihinga, you had your hand up, and then Councillor.
I was going to make the same point.
Good, thank you. Councillor Warsong.
My question was just a question that I've been asked that I didn't have the answer to. With regards to if our neighbours achieve 90% vaccination rates and move into the traffic light system, and we are not yet at 90% and are still in the not traffic light system, what does that mean for our borders?
Well, look, this is a health-led response that's leading the COVID push there. For us, in terms of setting, we manage the risk. I mean, our remit is to actually mitigate the risk that's presented there. That is clearly the key focus where we've got regional discussion underway at the moment in terms of how that collaboration to actually have the response and the resurgence plans in place for that. So it doesn't answer your question specifically, but I guess it's not the CEDAM aspect of managing the question that you've asked there. But certainly we want to be part of that discussion, to have oversight for it.
Okay, no more questions. Thank you, Ben, for the update, and thank you also for the good work you and your team do on behalf of our region. It is much appreciated. I know so much goes on behind the scenes that we don't see, so please convey our thanks to your team as well. Okay, I've got a mover in Councillor Seymour. I've got a second in Councillor Burdett. All in favour? Contrary, carried. I move that we go into public. Oh my goodie, there we go. This is fast moving this morning. All in favour?